First Things First is sponsored by Gillette, the best a man can get.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolf. That is the Hall of Famer Chris Carter. That is Nick Wright. Good weekend, guys.
Absolutely. Good morning. Good to see you.
Nice to see you. A lot of football taken in this weekend.
A lot of football.
We have a big Monday show for you. The Cowboys might be better than we thought. It looks like the Warriors will never lose another NBA championship, and the Browns have the receiver, although it might not be exactly.
Every day that he was gone from camp, I had concern over what not only his mental and his physical health, but also what his football future. I mean, he's to the point where any little slip up could finish his football career. So I knew it was a critical situation for him. I like the fact that he did reach out to the team and to the NFL to say he did need some help. I'm still concerned about that, but I do feel better that he is back with the team. We talked about maybe a little over a week ago, and Nick, I think you asked me the question, at this point in their career, Josh Gordon and Des Bryant, who would you prefer to have? And I would prefer to have Josh Gordon because of the fact of his ability to be able to run. And then now, since they have Jarvis Landry, brought him over, and he's more of the possession receiver, I definitely need someone like Josh Gordon. So I'm excited that the Browns have not given up on him. I'm excited that the NFL, that they might have intervened to be able to get some clarity on this case, because this is not the normal, a person inside the drug program taking away time before they go to training camp. I haven't seen this Josh scenario
because it hadn't happened before. And that's something the NFL deserves credit for on this front, because the NFL, in my opinion, in years past had been far too black and white and far too authoritarian at times when it comes to street drug violations. Listen, you have this many failed tests, you miss 4 games, this many failed tests, you miss the season, and indefinitely suspended. And I don't want to sit here, I'm not saying Josh failed a test, but once you are at this point in the substance abuse program, any misstep, a missed test, not only a failed test, a lot of things can get it to where, okay, we'll talk to you in a year. And I think the NFL quietly, because they haven't publicly said this, but the only logical conclusion you can draw from all the evidence we have is the Browns, Josh, and the NFL came together in order to give Josh the best chance to get back on a football field. And it looks like now he's going to be back on a football field without being suspended again, which is critical because, as C mentioned, I mean, he hadn't played a full season since 2013. In 2014, he was injured, and he played part of the season, out 15 and 16, only played a half dozen games last year. If he then had another year suspension, his football career is over. So on the personal standpoint, on the human standpoint, I'm happy for Josh Gordon. On the football standpoint, you now look at the Browns, just at the wide receiving core for a moment, and it's the basketball team you're always talking about. Njoku can be their center as the big tight end. Josh Gordon, people I don't know if they know this, he's 6'3". He can be he's fast, but he's also a big guy. He can be their power forward. You mentioned Jarvis Landry is their possession guy. And then Antonio Callaway is an interesting slot option, kind of as a point guard, to continue the analogy. Like, you look at the Browns pass catchers, and every box is checked without having to add Des Bryant, assuming that Josh Gordon continued, now that he's back, that he stays there.
Josh Gordon missed a lot of time. So for people that haven't been following closely to where he was when he first came out and how he played, how good can Josh Gordon be? Because he answered very quickly that he's a better option for the Browns than Des Bryant. Tell people why.
Yeah, I still think he's a 1,000-yard receiver. He still has very unique size-speed combination. We've seen in the highlight of the highlight season was 2013 season. He does stuff like that we hadn't seen a big guy do since Randy Moss. Now, he's bigger than Randy Moss from a size bulk standpoint, not necessarily as fast on the deep ball, but his route combination, his ability to be able to make the big play. I mean, he runs beautiful routes, catches the ball with his hands. I mean, he has, I would say, I haven't seen 10 wide receivers in the last 20 years have more talent than Josh Gordon. Not 10.
No.
Not 10.
He had a stretch in 2013 where in a month, in 4 games of football, with keep in mind who's playing quarterback for the Browns, well, at any point in the last 30 years. But In 4 games, he had 770 receiving yards. In 4 games. He had, I think in that stretch, I think he had 5 touchdowns. By the way, that's the only reason that the Browns or any team would have been this patient. Like, every player that gets kicked out of the league wants to be reinstated, but even if they get reinstated, there's not usually many teams that are like, okay, you haven't played in 2 years. Like, we don't know if you're going to be able to stay clean. But his talent, he hadn't played a football game in a couple years, and last year's first game back, he had 85 yards. 85 yards receiving again. Who was playing quarterback for the Browns? It's like Deshaun Kaiser, Cody Kessler, and company. No. The talent's undeniable.
Yeah, and I could see the Browns winning 6 games this year. Because if you talk about the basketball team as far as the wide receiver and their tight end, let's include their quarterbacks. Tyrod, since we found out from last week, that's his name compared to Tyrod, which we've all been calling him. Baker Mayfield, and then the running backs. They got Duke Johnson and Carlos Hyde. Carlos Hyde is an underrated player. Their offensive line. I'm going to stay with the same thing. Their offensive line is underrated. Their defense, I believe, is going to be pretty good. It's underrated. So I believe the Browns have improved as much as any team. Well, they won 1 game in the last 2 years. But from a skilled standpoint, that's why I believe also that Tyrod will be the quarterback. Because when you have that many skilled guys, it's important to be able to get these guys the football, and that's why I believe he'll be able to hold off Baker because of the playmakers on the outside. Browns and Browns fans, they should be excited because this morning they woke up and they are a better football team that Josh is back with the club.
And you can go, I'll go a step further on each position group. You mentioned Carlos Hyde and Duke Johnson. There's the guy they drafted at the top of the 2nd round, Nick Chubb. They have 3, I believe, quality running backs. David Njoku is a guy who's had a problem with drops, but we saw how talented he was in college. There's a reason he was a 1st-round pick. And I already mentioned the wide receivers, but how much better is everyone on the team going to look when you go from the worst quarterback situation in the NFL to Tyrod Taylor, who, as maligned as he was in Buffalo, there aren't 20 people alive that play the position better than him. There might not be 15. So we have talked about what a terrible position bad or inexperienced or inaccurate quarterbacks put you in. How much better are these guys going to be when they know the quarterback more likely than not is going to put the ball where it needs to be, as opposed to Deshaun Kaiser, who wasn't ready, or whomever else they were running out there last year? I might have more questions about the defense than Chris does, but offensively, you look at the Browns and say, very good wide receiving group, quality running back room, high potential tight end, and stability at quarterback, at least until they go to the rookie Baker Mayfield.
No, there's a lot of potential, but I do want to sort of close out the segment where we started with Josh Gordon. Does it concern you at all that during the preseason he had to take some time away to get himself back going again? That was during the preseason before the pressures and all of it and the limelight and everything kind of falls upon him here with the regular season right at the corner, especially if Hugh Jackson is saying there's a chance he could start week 1.
No, I expect him to be out there week number 1, but all the guys that are in the drug program, I got a great deal of concern for. There's a reason why they've been there. And now he's decided to take some time off, even if it wasn't to deal with a substance or drinking, which I do believe it had to do with one or either of those. I don't believe it was just anxiety. I believe it was something involved, not necessarily what he's been involved of in the past, but I believe
you could listen. They don't test you. It's not like you're on probation with the law where they test you for alcohol as they do for some. The NFL drug program, they're not testing you for. You don't violate if you've been drinking typically, but a lot of guys, if they drink, that is the next step to using drugs. And so that's again, this is I'm not reporting this, but my educated guess would be that he saw himself, where the team saw himself, going down a path and said, whoa. And by the way, good for him.
Sure.
Good for him, good for them, because that's the types of things these guys, that people need support on. But then there was also a report this week that he's got a child support court case hanging over his head where, I am not justifying anybody not taking care of their kids at all. Not unpaid child support's a huge problem in this country. We do have an odd situation with pro football players because you look at their annual salary and he doesn't start getting paid till September. And I don't know that the court system, they decree this in June, and it sounds like his representation says, well, you're basing it off his $800,000 salary. He doesn't get a dollar of that until September, but so he has a lot of stresses and pressures on him right now. So I think it'd be very warranted to continue to be concerned. But as long as he's out there, you said one of the, as far as Bill said, I think he instantly is one of the 10 best receivers in the league. Like, every time I've seen him play football, he's been that. The question is, can he play football? Can he stay
on the field?
Absolutely.
Exactly, for the Cleveland Browns. We'll talk about this a lot more. Eric Mangini will be with us to discuss. But coming up, hey, why might Dak Prescott not have to be lights out for the Cowboys to win the NFC East this year? The answer, when First Things First rolls on.